He moved slowly through the orbital trade station, watching carefully without drawing attention to himself. The place was loud, crowded, and alive with strange sounds from dozens of species. Ships arrived and departed every few minutes, filling the air with deep mechanical vibrations that echoed through the metallic corridors. Bright signs flickered in alien languages. Merchants shouted across narrow walkways, and travelers hurried past with crates, bags, or floating cargo units following behind them. The human's name was Daniel, and unlike most visitors, he was not searching for rare treasures or high-paying contracts. He was simply looking for spare ship parts and maybe a few affordable supplies before continuing his journey. His ship, a small independent transport vessel called the Horizon Path, was docked quietly in a nearby bay. Far from the busiest traffic, it was not impressive by galactic standards, but it was reliable, and Daniel cared for it like a home. Humans were still considered newcomers in the wider galaxy. Many species viewed them with curiosity, while others treated them with polite distance. Some believed humans were too emotional, too unpredictable, or too soft to survive among older civilizations. Daniel had heard these opinions many times, but he rarely responded. He preferred to let actions speak for themselves. As he walked past rows of stalls, he observed different trades happening all around him. One vendor sold advanced navigation crystals. Another displayed exotic plant samples contained within glowing glass spheres. Mechanical drones hovered overhead, projecting advertisements into the air. The entire station felt like a living organism made from metal, energy, and endless movement. Daniel paused occasionally to inspect parts, asking quiet questions and comparing prices. He had learned that patience usually earned better deals than urgency. A few merchants attempted to overcharge him after noticing he was human, but he simply smiled and moved on. Eventually, he turned down a narrower corridor, one that seemed less maintained than the main marketplace. The lighting dimmed slightly here, and the crowd became thinner. Instead of polished stalls, older storage units lined the walls. Some displayed items nobody else wanted. Outdated equipment, broken tools, and strange objects with unclear purposes. The air felt heavier, quieter. That was when he heard the voice. "Take them. They're free and worthless?" The words were sharp and dismissive, spoken loudly enough to carry across the corridor. Daniel stopped walking. He turned his head slowly toward the source of the voice. Inside a metal enclosure stood 3 young alien beings. Their skin shimmered faintly in pale blue tones, marked with delicate lines that seemed to glow softly under the dim lights. They were smaller than most adults of their species, their posture tense and defensive. Their eyes avoided contact with everyone passing by. A tall merchant stood beside the enclosure, looking bored and irritated. Daniel approached carefully. "What's going on here?" he asked calmly. The merchant shrugged. "Nothing important. Just failed inventory. If you want them, take them. Nobody else does." Daniel frowned slightly. Failed inventory? The merchant tapped the enclosure with a metal tool. "Virelian youths. Virelian youths. Supposed to be efficient learners, but these ones didn't meet standards. Too slow, too strange, not worth the resources." The 3 aliens remained silent, but Daniel noticed small changes in the faint patterns on their skin whenever the merchant spoke. The light shifted, almost like emotions made visible. He crouched down so he could meet their eye level. "Hello," he said gently. "My name is Daniel." One of them glanced briefly toward him before looking away again. Another kept their arms close to their body, as if expecting punishment for any movement. Daniel felt a tightness in his chest. He had seen similar expressions before. People who had been told too many times that they were not good enough. "What are their names?" he asked the merchant. The merchant waved a hand dismissively.
"Does it matter? They don't sell."
"I've had them for cycles and nobody wants them." Daniel ignored the tone and waited patiently. After a moment, one of the youths looked up again, curiosity slowly overcoming fear. "They do understand you," Daniel said quietly. "Of course they understand," the merchant replied. "They just don't respond properly. That's the problem." Daniel studied them more closely. Their eyes were intelligent, alert, and observant. There was nothing empty or broken about them. "What happens if nobody takes them?" he asked. The merchant shrugged again. "Eventually they'll be reassigned somewhere less expensive, maybe labor zones. Not my concern." The words felt heavy. Daniel remained silent for several seconds, thinking carefully. He had not planned for this. He did not have extra crew space prepared, and his journey already carried enough uncertainty. Yet something about the situation felt deeply wrong. He turned back toward the three youths. "Are you being forced to stay here?" One of them hesitated before speaking softly through the translation system. The voice sounded careful, uncertain. "We are awaiting reassignment." The phrasing felt formal, distant, like words learned from authority rather than personal choice. Daniel nodded slowly. He stood up and faced the merchant again. "You said they're free?" "Yes. One." "Take them and sign the transfer. I just need them gone." The decision formed quietly inside him. "All right," Daniel said. The merchant blinked in surprise. "You're serious?" Yes, the paperwork process was quick. Digital signatures transferred ownership status, though Daniel felt uncomfortable with the idea of ownership itself. Still, he understood that within the current system, this was the only way to remove them from the stall. When the enclosure opened, the three youths hesitated. They stepped forward slowly, watching Daniel carefully, as if expecting hidden conditions. "You don't have to rush," he said gently. "You're safe." They followed him through the corridor, staying close together. Some passers-by glanced at them with mild curiosity, others with indifference. A few whispered quietly, clearly surprised that a human had accepted unwanted Varelians. Daniel ignored the attention and guided them toward Dock 12. The walk felt longer than usual, perhaps because he was thinking about what he had just done. At the docking bay, the horizon path waited quietly. Its exterior showed signs of long journeys. Scratches, repaired panels, faded paint. But it radiated care and resilience. "This is my ship," Daniel said, opening the hatch. They paused at the entrance. "I need you to understand something," he continued. "You are not property to me. You are guests. We'll figure things out together." The words seemed to confuse them. Inside, the ship felt warm and lived in. Tools rested neatly along one wall, and soft lights illuminated the main corridor. Daniel guided them to the common area and offered water and nutrient packs. They accepted cautiously. Silence filled the space for a while. The hum of the ship's systems created a calm, background sound. Finally, one of them spoke. "Why did you take us?" Daniel considered the question carefully before answering. "Because nobody deserves to be called worthless." The faint light patterns on their skin shifted again, brighter this time. Outside, the docking clamps released. The horizon path lifted slowly from the station and turned toward open space. As the stars stretched into lines of light during the jump to faster travel, Daniel realized that his simple visit to the trade station had turned into something far more meaningful. Behind him, 3 individuals who had been labeled failures watched the stars for the first time, without chains or expectations holding them down. None of them yet understood how much this moment would change the future, not only for themselves, but for everyone who would hear their story. The horizon path traveled quietly through open space, its engines producing a steady hum that filled the ship with a calm rhythm. After leaving the busy trade station behind, the vastness of space felt peaceful and endless. Stars stretched across the darkness like scattered lights, and distant nebulae created faint colors beyond the viewing panels. Daniel allowed the 3 Varelian youths time to adjust. He understood that trust did not grow instantly, especially for individuals who had been treated as unwanted. During the first few days, they remained close together, rarely moving far from the guest quarters he had prepared. They observed everything carefully: the ship's layout, the sounds of machinery, and Daniel's routines. He never pressured them to speak. Instead, he continued with his normal tasks, giving them space while quietly showing through his actions that they were safe. He maintained the engines, checked navigation routes, and prepared simple meals that could suit different species. Each time he passed them, he greeted them calmly, offering small smiles that slowly replaced their tension with curiosity. Eventually, communication began to grow. The ship's translation system helped them exchange basic words. The one who had spoken first at the station introduced herself as Lyra. Her voice was soft but steady, and she seemed naturally observant, noticing small details others might miss. The second, Kale, spoke less but watched Daniel's technical work with intense interest. The third, Sori, communicated more through emotion than speech, often sensing changes in atmosphere before anyone said anything. Daniel listened as they explained pieces of their past. Their species, the Virelians, valued precision and efficiency above all else. Individuals were measured constantly against strict performance standards. Those who learned differently or expressed unusual skills were often considered flawed because they did not follow expected patterns. "They said we were inefficient," Lyra explained one evening while they sat near the viewing panel. "We did not respond in the correct ways." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. Different doesn't mean wrong. The words seemed new to them. As days passed, Daniel began including them in small tasks. At first he asked simple things: organizing supplies, checking environmental controls, observing navigation screens. Instead of giving strict instructions, he encouraged questions. Kale surprised him by suggesting a minor adjustment to the cooling system. The idea sounded unusual, but when Daniel tested it, the efficiency improved noticeably. Kale seemed shocked by the success, as if expecting to be corrected. "That was a good idea," Daniel said. Kale hesitated. "It was acceptable? It was smart," Daniel replied simply. The response stayed with Kale for the rest of the day. Lyra spent long hours studying star charts. She appeared fascinated by spatial patterns, tracing routes with careful attention. One afternoon, she pointed out a small fluctuation in their trajectory that Daniel had not yet noticed. Her prediction helped him adjust course earlier than expected, saving fuel and time. Sori, meanwhile, demonstrated a unique understanding of emotional communication. She noticed when Daniel felt tired even before he admitted it, quietly offering assistance or suggesting breaks. At first, Daniel laughed gently at her accuracy, but soon he realized her insight was extremely valuable, especially during stressful situations. Slowly, the atmosphere on the ship changed. The quiet tension that had filled the first days began to fade, replaced by curiosity, learning, and occasional laughter. During a routine journey between star systems, an unexpected signal interrupted the calm. A distress call echoed through the communication console. The message came from a nearby vessel experiencing navigation failure. Daniel activated sensors immediately. A small cargo ship drifted dangerously close to a debris field, its movement unstable. Station authorities in the area were attempting remote repairs but struggling to stabilize the vessel's trajectory. Lyra watched the navigation display closely. "The pattern repeats," she said carefully. "Movement follows a cycle." Daniel allowed her access to the secondary console. She traced the ship's erratic motion and predicted its next shift with surprising accuracy. Kale studied the technical data and identified an outdated protocol hidden within the ship's system architecture. "There is an older override," he explained. "Not efficient by modern standards, but it may bypass the failure." Many experienced technicians had already tried common solutions. Taking a different approach might help. "Let's try it," he said. Working together, they transmitted instructions through secure channels. Lyra calculated safe timing, windows. Cale guided the technical adjustments, and Daniel coordinated communication with station control. For several tense minutes, nothing changed. Then the drifting vessel stabilized. Relief spread across the communication network as engineers confirmed that the ship's navigation system had regained control. The danger of collision passed. Station officials sent messages of gratitude, surprised that assistance had come from a small, independent human vessel. Lyra, Cale, and Sori stood silently, unsure how to react to praise. They were not used to recognition. Daniel smiled warmly. "You saved lives today." Lyra's markings brightened slightly, reflecting a mix of disbelief and pride. Later that evening, the three sat together, discussing the event quietly. For the first time since leaving the station, they spoke with excitement rather than caution. They replayed their decisions, analyzing what worked and what they had learned. Daniel watched from a distance, feeling quietly satisfied. News of the incident spread faster than expected. Nearby stations began discussing the unusual collaboration between a human and 3 Varelians previously labeled defective. Some responses were positive, while others expressed skepticism. Still, curiosity grew. One message arrived from a neutral trade outpost requesting permission to interview Daniel and his crew about the rescue. He declined politely, not wanting to overwhelm the youths with attention too quickly. Instead, he focused on helping them build confidence gradually. He introduced them to small training simulations, allowing each to explore their strengths. Lyra navigated complex asteroid fields in virtual scenarios, demonstrating remarkable instinct for movement. Cale experimented with engineering puzzles, often finding solutions that surprised even advanced software. Sori practiced communication simulations, resolving conflicts between simulated crews through calm dialogue. With each success, their posture changed slightly. Shoulders straightened. Voices became steadier. One night, while watching a distant star collapse into a bright flare, Sori asked quietly, "Why did you believe in us?" before seeing proof. Daniel thought for a long moment before answering, "Because I've seen many people called useless when they were just misunderstood." Sori considered his words deeply. As the Horizon Path continued its journey, the ship no longer felt like a temporary refuge. It began to feel like a place where growth was possible. The 3 Varelians started exploring more of the ship independently, adjusting environmental settings to better match their comfort while also learning human preferences. They asked questions about Earth, about human culture, and about how humans handled failure. Daniel explained that humans often learned through mistakes rather than avoiding them. The concept fascinated them. In their society, mistakes were seen as proof of inadequacy. One day, Cale deliberately attempted a risky simulation to test a new idea. When it failed, Cale froze, expecting disappointment. Daniel simply nodded. "What did you learn from it?" Slowly, the fear faded, replaced by curiosity again. Trust deepened further. By the end of the second week, the Horizon Path felt alive with shared purpose. They ate together regularly, discussed plans, and even joked occasionally about small misunderstandings caused by translation errors. The 3 who had once been silent now participated actively in decisions. As they approached their next destination, a mid-sized station known for research and trade, Daniel sensed that their journey was only beginning. The galaxy was starting to notice them, and new challenges would surely come. But for now, within the quiet safety of the ship, 3 individuals once described as worthless were discovering something powerful, the freedom to grow beyond expectations. And Daniel, watching them learn and change, realized that the greatest part of the journey was not the destinations ahead, but the transformation already taking place among his small and unlikely crew. The Horizon Path moved steadily toward the next star system, leaving behind a faint trail of engine light against the dark background of space. Inside the ship, the atmosphere had changed greatly since the first day Daniel brought the 3 Varelians aboard. Silence and fear had slowly turned into curiosity, learning, and quiet confidence. Still, none of them knew how quickly the outside galaxy was beginning to notice their existence. News of the rescue had spread through several communication networks. At first it had been just a small report, an independent human ship assisting in stabilizing a drifting vessel. But the story gained attention when observers realized who had helped. 3 individuals labeled as failures by their own society had played a key role. That detail caused debate across many systems. Daniel did not pay much attention to public reactions. He focused on daily routines, ensuring the ship remained in good condition and that his new companions continued to grow at their own pace. Lyra practiced navigation regularly, studying star patterns and simulation maps. Kale spent long hours in the engineering section, experimenting with harmless modifications under Daniel's supervision. Sori developed communication exercises, helping everyone understand each other more clearly. One morning, as they approached a research station orbiting a pale blue star, a priority message arrived through secure channels. The signal carried official identification codes from the Varelian Collective. The atmosphere inside the ship changed instantly. Now, Lyra froze at the console, her glowing markings dimming slightly. Kale stopped working mid-task, and Sori's posture grew tense. Daniel noticed immediately. "Do you want me to answer it?" he asked gently. They exchanged uncertain glances before Lyra nodded slowly. Daniel opened the communication channel. A group of Virelian representatives appeared on the main display, their expressions calm but distant. Their posture reflected authority and strict discipline. "Human pilot," one of them said formally. "We request clarification regarding 3 individuals transferred into your custody." Daniel remained calm. "They are not in my custody. They are traveling with me, by choice." The representatives exchanged brief looks. "They were classified as non-productive assets," another said. "Recent reports indicate unusual performance. We require evaluation." Daniel glanced at Lyra, Kale, and Sori before responding. "They are safe here. If you wish to speak with them, they can decide whether to participate." The statement surprised the officials. Choice was not a common concept within their structured system. Lyra stepped forward slowly. Her voice shook slightly but remained clear. "We are learning. We are contributing." The officials studied her closely. Their glowing markings shifted subtly, revealing curiosity beneath their formal behavior. "We will observe further," the lead representative said finally. "Continue current course. Additional contact will follow." The communication ended. Silence filled the room. Daniel turned toward the trio. "How are you feeling?" Sori answered first. "Uncertain." They rarely observe without judgment. Daniel nodded. "Then we focus on what we can control." They continued toward the research station, unaware that greater challenges were already forming ahead. As the horizon path docked, the station appeared busier than expected. Multiple ships surrounded it, and emergency signals flashed across the outer structure. Daniel contacted station control and learned that a serious infrastructure failure had affected several systems at once. Power grids malfunctioned, life support fluctuated, and navigation controls struggled to maintain safe traffic flow. Technicians worked urgently but lacked coordination. Daniel hesitated only briefly before offering assistance. Lyra immediately began analyzing navigation data, identifying patterns in traffic movement that others overlooked. Kale reviewed system schematics and noticed that several failures connected through a hidden dependency chain. Sori opened communication channels between different teams, helping reduce confusion and emotional tension. The work was intense. Multiple species attempted to cooperate despite different languages and technical standards. At times, frustration rose, but Sori's calm presence helped maintain focus. She encouraged clear communication, preventing small misunderstandings from becoming major conflicts. Lyra predicted safe routes for incoming ships, preventing collisions during unstable moments. Her ability to visualize spatial movement impressed experienced navigators who watched her work. Kale developed an unconventional repair method by combining outdated hardware with modern software, an idea that initially seemed strange but quickly restored stability to critical systems. Daniel coordinated their efforts, ensuring safety while trusting their growing abilities. Hours passed before the station returned to normal operations. When the final confirmation arrived, relief spread across every communication channel. The station administrator requested to meet the team personally. During the meeting, several officials expressed surprise that the solutions came from individuals previously labeled as inefficient. Lyra listened quietly, unsure how to respond to praise. Kale avoided direct attention but could not hide a small expression of pride. Sori simply smiled gently, sensing the shift in how others viewed them. Soon after, a new message arrived from the Virialan Collective. This time, the tone felt different, less dismissive, more analytical. "We request a formal observation," the message stated. "Your performance contradicts previous evaluations." Daniel discussed the request with the trio privately. They hesitated, remembering past judgment, but also recognized an opportunity to change how their society understood value. "We choose together," Sori said. They agreed to allow observation under clear conditions: respect, safety, and autonomy. The next few days passed with increased attention. Observers monitored their work, recording how they solved problems, communicated, and adapted creatively. Instead of feeling trapped, Lyra, Kale, and Sori focused on demonstrating who they truly were. During a complex navigation simulation, Lyra outperformed automated systems by predicting unpredictable movement patterns. Kale redesigned a damaged subsystem using innovative logic that balanced efficiency with flexibility. Sori mediated a disagreement between two engineering teams from different species, turning conflict into cooperation. Observers noted everything carefully. Daniel remained supportive, but stayed slightly in the background, allowing them to stand on their own achievements. One evening, while the ship rested at the station, Lyra looked at the stars and spoke quietly. "We were told our differences were errors. Now they see them as strengths." Daniel smiled. Sometimes it takes someone stepping outside expectations to show a new path. As the observation period ended, anticipation filled the ship. The Virillian Collective prepared a formal evaluation that could influence not only their future, but also how their entire society viewed individuals like them. The three who had once been silent passengers now stood confidently as contributors. They had faced challenges, proven their abilities, and begun changing perceptions beyond their small crew. And as the Horizon Path prepared for the next stage of the journey, Daniel sensed that the greatest transformation was still ahead. Not just for Lyra, Kale, and Sori, but for an entire civilization learning to rethink what it meant to have value. The Horizon Path floated quietly near the research station while the final evaluation from the Virillian Collective was being prepared. Outside the viewing panel, ships moved slowly in organized patterns, their lights blinking against the darkness of space. Inside the ship, the atmosphere felt calm, but filled with anticipation. Lyra, Kale, and Sori had come far since the day Daniel met them at the trade station. Yet the thought of facing their own society again created mixed emotions. Daniel did not rush them. He understood that moments like this required patience. Instead, he focused on simple routines. He checked the engines, prepared meals, and reviewed navigation charts while allowing them time to think. The three Virillians spent long hours talking quietly among themselves, reflecting on everything that had changed. Lyra stood near the navigation console, watching star patterns drift across the screen. She remembered how she had once been told that her way of thinking was too slow and too different. Now, those same patterns had helped prevent accidents and guide ships safely. Kale worked carefully in the engineering section, adjusting small components even though everything functioned perfectly. The act of working helped him stay calm. Sori walked between both areas, offering gentle encouragement whenever she sensed nervousness growing. A message arrived at last. The Virillian Collective requested a live connection for the final assessment. Daniel gathered everyone in the main room and activated the communication screen. Several representatives appeared, their expressions serious but no longer dismissive. Their glowing markings reflected focus and curiosity. "We have completed observation," the lead representative began. "The results differ greatly from previous records." Lyra listened carefully, her posture steady. "You were classified as non-productive assets due to non-standard development patterns," the representative continued. "However, recent performance demonstrates capabilities beyond expected parameters." Kyle's eyes widened slightly, but he remained silent. The representative paused, as if choosing words carefully. "We request demonstration within a public evaluation environment." Daniel glanced at the trio. They had expected this possibility. A public event would allow their abilities to be witnessed by many observers, potentially changing long-held beliefs within the collective. Lyra stepped forward. "We agree under one condition. We are not property. We choose participation freely." The representatives exchanged brief looks before nodding. Accepted. Preparations began immediately. The research station organized a large simulation chamber where complex scenarios could be tested safely. Observers from multiple species gathered, curious to see whether the reports were accurate. On the day of the evaluation, the atmosphere felt electric. Screens displayed live feeds across the station. Daniel stood quietly behind Lyra, Kale, and Sori as they entered the chamber together. The first challenge focused on navigation. A simulated environment recreated unstable asteroid fields with unpredictable movement patterns. Automated systems struggled to maintain safe paths, forcing participants to think creatively. Lyra studied the projection carefully. Her markings shifted as she focused deeply, tracking movement patterns others missed. She adjusted the route step by step, guiding the simulated vessel through narrow openings with calm precision. Observers murmured as the system recorded success beyond expected efficiency levels. The second challenge tested engineering problem-solving. A damaged energy grid required immediate stabilization using limited tools. Kale hesitated briefly, remembering past failures, but Daniel's calm presence behind him gave quiet reassurance. Kale analyzed the structure and chose an unconventional solution, combining older design principles with modern components. The system stabilized faster than predicted, earning surprised reactions from experienced engineers watching from outside. The final challenge involved communication and diplomacy. Several simulated teams from different species argued over conflicting priorities during a crisis scenario. The simulation grew chaotic quickly. Sori stepped forward and began guiding conversation calmly, acknowledging each perspective while redirecting focus toward shared goals. Her approach reduced tension step by step until cooperation replaced conflict. Observers watched in silence as the simulation concluded successfully. When the challenges ended, the chamber remained quiet for several seconds. Then applause began, first from a few individuals, then spreading across the entire viewing area. Lyra, Kale, and Sori stood together, unsure how to react to such overwhelming recognition. They had never experienced approval on this scale before. The Varelian representatives appeared again on the main screen.
"Your performance challenges previous assumptions,"
the lead representative said. "Our evaluation systems prioritized uniform efficiency. Your success demonstrates that diversity of thinking produces greater adaptability."
The words carried weight far beyond the room. After a brief pause, the representative continued.
"The collective will begin reviewing classification methods. New evaluation frameworks will consider varied strengths rather than rigid standards." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Change within their society was rare and slow. Yet this announcement suggested a shift had already begun. "We invite you to return as advisors," another representative added. "Your experiences may help guide future development." The offer hung in the air. Daniel watched quietly, knowing that this decision belonged entirely to them. Lyra looked toward Kale and Sori. They shared a silent conversation through subtle changes in their markings before turning back toward the screen. "We will help," Lyra said carefully. But we also wish to continue exploring. We are still learning who we are." The representatives nodded. "Your choice is respected." The communication ended, leaving a feeling of relief mixed with excitement. Later, back aboard the Horizon Path, the four gathered in the common area. The ship felt warmer than ever before, filled with shared memories and new possibilities. They talked long into the night, reflecting on how far they had come since that first meeting at the trade station. Lyra admitted she had never imagined feeling proud of herself. Kale spoke about discovering joy in creativity instead of fear of mistakes. Sori described how understanding emotions had helped build bridges between people who once refused to listen to each other. Daniel listened quietly, feeling grateful that he had trusted his instinct to help them. The next morning, the ship prepared for departure. Station staff gathered to say goodbye, many expressing admiration and gratitude. Some younger Varelians approached shyly, inspired by the trio's story. For the first time, Lyra, Kale, and Sori saw hope in the eyes of others who might have been overlooked before. As the Horizon Path left the station and moved toward open space, the stars stretched endlessly ahead. The journey felt different now. They were no longer simply traveling away from the past. They were moving toward a future they had helped reshape. During the quiet hours of travel, Daniel stood at the viewing panel with the three beside him. None of them spoke for a while. Words were unnecessary. Finally, Sori said softly, "When you heard someone call us worthless, you chose to listen differently." Daniel smiled gently. "Sometimes people just need someone willing to look closer." Lyra watched the stars and added, "Now others will look closer too," carrying with it a story that spread across systems. A story about how compassion revealed hidden potential, how differences became strengths, and how one simple decision changed the path of many lives. Among distant civilizations, a new belief began to grow. When humans refuse to accept labels placed on others, they often uncover possibilities that transform entire worlds. And aboard the Horizon Path, a human and three former outcasts traveled together as equals, ready to face whatever adventures waited beyond the next star.